Hey there, Grace Point family. Time once again for our GPRead program. We're in Deuteronomy this week. Chapters 20 through 28 is what we're looking at. And we are again looking at various laws that the Jewish people had, initially given to them by Moses, but here being reiterated by Joshua, or by Moses rather, before Joshua takes over and the people go into the land. So in chapter 20, you're going to hear laws about warfare. And you may have heard of a theory called just war theory by a guy named Augustine, came up with this years ago. Now, much of what he came up with is based here on chapter 20. So read through chapter 20 and recognize war itself, as horrendous as it is a necessary evil at times. And God himself gives guidelines for how war should be waged and how it should be waged rightly in his name. Now you go on to chapter 21 and you find different forms of atonement that are needed. Some laws about marrying female captives. So if captives from another land that they had had a war with, there's a female that a man wants to marry. How does he go about that in the right way? Then he talks about inheritance rights of the firstborn. Now that phrase firstborn is very important, especially as we get into the New Testament, because in the Old Testament, the firstborn son was usually given everything of the inheritance. The others would get a little bit, but he would get the most, and he would be like the one to carry on the family line. When we come to the New Testament, we hear references to the firstborn son. And even though we Christians are male and female, that term still applies even to the women. Because what he's trying to say there is that even women have the rights of that firstborn now, just like the son would have back in the Old Testament days. So read carefully in your New Testament next time you see that. He's going to give some instructions about a rebellious child. What do you do then? He's going to give a lot of various laws as we move on, including laws about sexual immorality. He's going to talk about the people who are excluded from worship and excluded from the people of Israel, why they're excluded. And the issue is never that the person is bad or evil or anything like that. It's those who disobey God's command and those who are somehow unclean for some ceremonial reason. And the idea of uncleanness really has to do with not being whole, not being everything you're expected to be as a human being, or that God made you to be. So you'll see things about shriveled hands or someone who's missing a leg or something like that, and they cannot come into the place of worship. You're also going to read about miscellaneous laws having to do with things like cleanliness in the camp, laws concerning divorce and how that was to happen, a bunch of different miscellaneous laws having to do with Levirate marriage, meaning those who are Levites, the priests, how they're to go about getting married and those kinds of things. Friends, this whole section of the laws, remember, once again, we are establishing a new nation. That's what God's doing. And so these laws are about a lot more than just religious things. These are about social things. These are about ways to enable the people to live in a society in a way that's peaceful and harmonious. Then in chapter 26, he's going to talk about first fruits and tithes and the requirements on the people to give of their first fruits to God. Much like our idea of giving your offering from the very first of your proceeds, it's an idea that honors God as the giver of those things. And it's a mindset that we still should cultivate in our modern day. You're going to see some an altar constructed on Mount Ebal, and you're going to see curses given from one mountain across to the other, and then blessings called back. And you're going to understand this as a symbol of the people participating in God's covenant. And God is having them, for the sake of their own memory and their own experience, pronounce the curses and pronounce the blessings so that they are very clear of what it is God is covenanting with them. If you obey these things, you will be blessed. If you disobey these things, you will be cursed. And all of that coming from the heart of our good God, who is there establishing his people and giving them laws and rules to obey so that they would flourish in the land that he was giving them. So friends, keep reading, stick with it. Stick with Proverbs as well. Proverbs is so full of wisdom. I'm convinced by the time we're done reading Proverbs over and over and over in this 2-year period, we are going to be a church that has grown in leaps and bounds in the area of wisdom. Love you, friends. Talk to you again soon.